Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kenza James. To our new and old subscribers, you're all welcome to today's tutorial. I'm seeing all of you, the new people who are joining the family. Guys, I love you all, right? So in today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to draft and cut a button down shirt, right? So this is a very interesting topic, as a lot of people have been sending me messages on how they would love to see this tutorial. If you're just tuning in today and you're not yet subscribed, guys, head over to subscribe now so you don't miss out on all my amazing tutorials that I drop regularly, right? And guys, if you're watching this, why not just hit the like button, guys? I mean, it's free. Subscription is free, hitting the like button is free. And why not, if there's any tutorial you love to see, drop it in the comment section, guys, because I love you guys. So why not, I will bring those tutorials to you most definitely. So let's get into drafting. So guys, what we're going to be needing is a nice ruler, a marking pen, a pattern paper, and a tape. The first thing I'm going to be doing is to mark the length of my dress plus 1 inch, which I'm going to use to hem the lower side of the dress. So the length of the dress that I want is 28 inches plus 1 inch is 29. So I have a total of 29 inches, like so, right? So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to mark the front side. Mind you, this is the front side of the shirt that we are sewing, right? So I'm going to mark 2 inches for the overlap. 1 inch is going to be for the overlap, and the other 1 inch is for folding the overlap, right? So I will need to fold again on the overlap. When I get to the sewing side, you will understand what I'm doing. So I'm going to be marking 2.5 inches, right? So I'm marking 2.5 inches on this side, like so. So I'm going to do that as well till I get to the hem side of our shirt, like so. So I'm going to be ruling that. So I'm going to mark it as a straight line. I have it marked like this. So the next thing I'll be doing from here is to mark my regular 3 inches neckline, right? So for the front side, I'm just going to mark 3 inches. Then I'll mark half of my shoulder measurement. So my shoulder measurement is 17 inches, but I'm going to be needing half of an inch. You can do 1 inch for ease, because it's a shirt dress, it is a shirt blouse, so you don't want it tight like that. So I'm marking 9.5 instead of the regular 8.5, which I would use for my regular blouse, right? So I'm marking 9.5 for my shoulder. So on the shoulder line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, right? Then I'm going to connect that 1 inch to these 3 inches for my neckline. I'll be connecting it like so, right? So the next thing I'm going to be doing now is to mark my from this 1 inch that I came down here. I'm going to mark my armhole measurement. Now I do not want the shirt to be tight, so I'm just going to mark 8 inch. I don't want it too tight, so I'm going to mark 8 inches. Ordinarily, now I'm marking 8 inches because I'm going to add an overlap from the back side to the front side. So by the time I get there, you will see what I mean, right? So I'm marking 8 inches. So when I measure from this first line, it's going to be 9 inches. So I'm just going to mark that 9 inch here as well, so that I can connect it in a straight line. So I'll mark 9 inch here as well. Then I'm just going to connect my point like so, right? So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to mark the distance from my shoulder to my affluent point, right, or my waist. So I'm just going to mark that point and connect that as well. Then I'll mark the distance from my waist to my hip, which is almost around the hem of the of the shirt. So the shoulder, from my shoulder to my hip, is 26 inches. So just work with your own measurements, guys. So I'll mark 26 inches. Then I'm going to just connect those points in a straight line, right? So guys, ensure to watch this tutorial to the end, because the back is a little bit different from what we are going to be having in the front side of the shirt. So this shoulder line that I have here, that I marked 9.5 inches, I'm coming down on the chest line or the armhole line to mark the same 9.5 inches, so that I can square this line out. So I'm just going to go ahead and square the line like so. Then I'm going to be marking my bust measurement. Now I do not want this shirt to be tight, like really figure hugging, so I'm going to do my bust measurement plus 2 inches, or I'll insert my bust measurement right like so. Then I'm going to add 1 inch for ease, or half inch, is totally up to you depending on how free you want it to be. So I'm adding 1 inch. Now on my affluence point, I'm going to be adding my affluence measurement plus 1 inch. Now if you want a dart on this shirt, you can go ahead and add another 1 inch for that, right? But I feel like I'm going to add a dart, but it will be from the side to the bust, not on the waist side, right? So on the hip as well, I'm going to mark. So I'm coming over here to mark my hip measurement on the hip line. So I'm going to mark my hip measurement plus 1 inch sewing allowance, plus 1 inch ease allowance. Now mind you, I'm not adding any sewing allowance yet on the shirt, so I'm going to mark like so, right? So if you want to add your sewing allowance now, you can go ahead and mark your sewing allowance, right? So from here, I'm going to just go ahead and connect it straight down, right? I'm eventually not going to be using that point like that, but then let me show you what I'm going to be doing. Because on the hem side, now you remember that 1 inch we left here, I'm just going to go ahead and rule out the 1 inch which we left, that I said it was for hemming, right? So let me label this panel for you to see. This is our chest line, which doubles as our armhole line. This is our affluence line, or our waist line, that's the upper waist. Then this is our hip line. Then this is hip. Then this is our hem line, right? Sorry guys, this noise, ignore the noise please, it's coming from my fan. The weather is a little bit hot, not a little bit, the weather is scorching hot. So on this point, I'm just going to go ahead and shape this in like so. You can use your French curve or any shape you like. You can go ahead and do that. If you don't even like this shape, you don't mind your shirt being squared out, that's fine. So this is going to be my mark, right? So this 1 inch that I have for hemming here, I'm just going to go ahead and continue with the 1 inch to this point, right? So I'll continue it like this. So this side is out of our equation, right? So now for our curve, for our armhole curve, I'm going to find the midpoint of this line, which is 4 inches. So I'm going to mark my 4 inches there. Then on that 4 inch line, I'm coming in by half, or 0.6 inches, sewing 0.6 inches. Now this is applicable to just the front side, and the reason is because you don't want any fabric bulking up or gaping around here. So that's why I'm doing that. Then I'm just subtly going to connect this point to the shoulder point like so. Then I'll gently do that. You can do that with your French curve, that's fine. But if you don't have a French curve, it does not mean anything. You can still walk as well. So I'm just going to connect my lines nicely, right? So this is going to be our front side, right? So before I mark my neckline and all that, I'm just going to go ahead and cut this pattern out first. Cut it. Give me scissors. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out my front side, then I work on the back side of. So at this point, guys, what I'm going to do, I brought in a fresh pattern paper, right? So I'm going to just go ahead and fold this overlap and the bottom side of the front side, right? So I'm just going to fold that in like so. Now, so at this point, it's going to just, I'm going to be left with the main, just the main bodies, right? Now I want the back side of my shirt to be longer than the front side of the shirt by, let's say, 4 inches or 5 inches. You can do 3 inches, you can do 2 inches, depending on what you want. So I'm just going to mark 4 inches. Should I do 5? Let me just leave it at 4. So I'm going to mark 4 inches from the hem side of the pattern paper. Then I'm going to draw a line, right? So I'll just draw a line across. Then I'm going to match these points. Now you can decide if you want sort of a pleat at the back of your shirt. I'm not sure of my fabric if it will be enough, so I'm not going to be adding that. But if I discover my fabric is enough, I might just add that part. But for now, I'll just place this point like so, right? I'll just make sure everything comes nicely like so. So I marked the hem here to be I just placed the hem of this fabric of the front panel on this hem line, and I marked 4 inches here. So I'm just ensuring that everything lays nicely. So I'll just get something to help with the weight, right? So now on this shoulder point, right, guys, I'm going to come up by 2 inches, right? So I'm going to mark 2 inches on this side for the overlap that I told you. Then on this other side of the shoulder, that's the starting point, I did not take out the neckline on the front, right? And that was on purpose. So I'm going to mark here 2.5 like so. Then I'm just going to rule a line across that point like so. Now remember, I told you my armhole is actually not supposed to be 8 inches. I want it bigger than 8 inches, but I made 8 inches because of this overlap that I'm going to have, right? So by the time I do this line here, then I'm just going to go ahead and cut out. Now this is what I'm going to do, right? What I'm going to do is this point, that's this line here that I cut out the armhole. You remember I went in on the front side of the armhole, so I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that line. I'm going to trace the regular line so that I will mark my back armhole, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and connect. I'm going to trace off the body like so. So I'm just going to make points and trace off our bodies, our basic bodies, right? So I'll just go ahead and trace up just to this point, right? Then I'll try to trace my armhole as well, right? Then I'm going to mark this point, this neckline point as well, so that I can trace off my body. When I do that, I'll move my front panel away. Then I'm just going to go ahead and follow off my traced points. right? So now I'm going to connect this point from here to this hem side, not this line anymore. So from here I'm just going to go down like so. Remember I said I want the back to be longer than the front, right? So it's going to be a little bit of a high-low situation there. Now for the armhole, I'm just going to make my armhole curve like so, right? So now, mind you, I'm going to just cut off this line so that I can overlap it for you to see. So on this line, I'm just going to roughly cut above the line, then I come over to cut like so, right? Then I'm going to go ahead and cut the bodies up onto here. Now when I get here, I'm cutting it in a slant. So guys, at this point, you can add your sewing allowances before cutting anything on your pattern, right? But I'm not going to do that. I'll add my sewing allowance when I want to sew. Now on this side, I'll cut it slanted like so, right? I'm going to come back to trim off that point. But for now, this is what I have, right? So I'm going to take this part away and I'll reintroduce the front bodies, right? So I'm going to bring the front side back here like so. So I have my front bodies like so. So now this back armhole, right, this back shoulder that is higher is longer than the front side. I'm just going to overlap it on the front side like so. So I'll make sure that it sits like maybe 1/4 of an inch on top of this one, on top of the front side. So I'm just going to place that point like so. Then I'll press nicely, right? Like so. By the time I do that, I'll trim off the excess I have on my shoulder points like so. That's why I wanted you to do it slanted as much so that you don't make mistakes. Now the shoulder that I want is around 9 inches or 8.5. But so if you put your tape here, you can see I have almost 9 inches, right? So it can also be 9 inches, but because of this overlap, but this measurement that I have is totally fine for me. So you can see, so this is what I have on this side. Now it's time to bring out my neckline. Now for my neckline, I'm going to mark 2.5 on this side. From here, starting from here, I'll mark 3 inches instead. So from this starting point here, I'll mark 3 inches like so, right? Then now what you need to do is to get the round of your neck. I'm going to be putting that measurement up here. So you're going to divide that measurement. I'm going to put a pattern. I'm going to put up on the screen the formula for finding your neck measurements, right? So that I don't, but mine is 4, but I'll put up the pattern on the screen now for you to see. So I'll go ahead and mark like so. Then from here, I'll just gently make a curve using dotted lines first, right? I'm just going to mark. I'm making my own. The length from here to here is 4.5 by 3. So by the time I just mark that, I'm going to go ahead and cut. Now mind you, I'm not cutting the entire thing. I'm just cutting the front side. I'm not cutting the back as well. So I'll just cut round this neck measurements, right? can see, this is what I have here. You can see. So this is what I have. This is the neckline and everything. So this is what we have on the basic bodies, right? So we are going to draft the sleeve and the collar. So this is the front side. For the front is going to be something like, the folding is going to be something like this, right? So for the front, we're going to have something like this for the front, right? So we are going to be cutting two panels of the front, and then for the back we are going to be cutting on fold. This side is going to be on fold. So now let's keep these bodies aside and draft our sleeve and our collar panel. So guys, for the sleeve side of the shirt, I'm going to just go ahead and mark, I'm going to mark my sleeve length is 24.5. Now for the curve around this side, I want the curve to be 3 inches or 3.5. So I'm going to minus 3.5 for the length of my sleeve, right? So instead of 24.5, I'm going to make 21 inches. So I'm going to be marking 21 inches like so, right? I'll mark 21 inches and 21 like so. Then I'm going to be connecting in a straight line. Mind you, this paper is allegedly to be on fold. I'm actually not, I don't want to waste a lot of pattern paper. That's why I'm just working with half scales, right? So I have this point like so. So I'm going to be marking my cap's height measurement. So for mine is 5 inches. I have a video on basic sleeve drafting. So in case you don't know what cap's height is, I'm going to be dropping that video in the description box so that you can learn how to calculate yours. Not everybody's own is 5. Some people is 3.5. You can see someone with 3, you can see 4, you can see 5, you can even see sometimes more than 5. So on the cap's height, I'm going to mark I'm going to be marking the half of my biceps measurements, right? So I'm going to be marking half of that like so. Then I'll be connecting that point to this point where we marked first. So I'm going to be connecting that like so, right? So by the time I do this, I'm going to measure this line, this now slanted line. I have 10.5, so I'm going to mark half of 10.5, which will be 5.25, right? So I'll mark that point. Now with my French curve, I'm going to connect for my French curve to touch this side and this midpoint like so, right? So I'm going to get my French curve to like so. So you can see we have this curve like so to here. Then I'm going to flip my French curve like so. One thing you should always do is look how a person is using a French curve or pattern master, how he lays it is something you should watch closely. So I'm just going to connect like so, right? Now this line that we have here is going to be for the back side of the shirt. So I'm going to make another line for the front. So when you're cutting, you use the back line to cut first. By the time you're done cutting, you trim off the side of the front. So let me show you what I'm doing. From this midpoint, I'm going to come down by half of an inch like so, right? So I'm going to use my French curve again to connect this point to this half of an inch. Then I'll flip my pattern master back, and then I'll connect like so. So the red pen is going to be this side will be the front and this side will be the back. So I'm going to use the back to cut it out first, and I'll keep it that way. Cut on. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to mark my elbow line. So from this point, I'm going to mark to my elbow, right? So I'll mark my elbow line like so. Then I'll connect it in a straight line. I know by now you'll be wondering what I'm doing with a pant curve, right? So we need pant curves in sleeves as well, right? So this is the point where you mark your elbow round. That's the elbow circumference divided by 2. So whatever your elbow circumference is, this is not a tight shirt, guys, so you'll be seeing me using some measurements that are not necessarily small. So I'm just going to mark my elbow measurement divided by 2. So I'll use my French curve, my pant curve, this inner side, the thigh side of the pant curve, to give this a nice shape. You really need these curves, guys, but if you don't have it, it's fine, you can still work without it. So what you do, if you're doing by hand, make sure it's a little bit curved around this side, because you don't want a straight line from here to here. So I'm going to mark my wrist round, right? So plus I'm going to make a dart there, so I'm going to be adding let's say 0.75 for the dart. So my wrist round measurement, not this side, guys, just a little bit higher than this side, because that's where your curve is going to start from. Then I'll mark plus that allowance. Then I'll just continue this. On this side you can use a straight ruler, it's fine, from here to there, right? So I have this as my basic sleeve, right? So now you go ahead and add 1/2 inch sewing allowance around your panel, right? But I'm not going to be adding any sewing allowance. By the time I'm cutting, I'll be cutting out my sewing allowances direct on my fabric. So now let's just make another line here to draft our curve, right? So now your wrist measurements, so this side I will cut separately, it's just for my curve. Your wrist measurement is what you will measure like so, right? So you don't want it too tight, right? So mine is 8 inches, right? So I'm going to be marking 8 inches on my, so I'll just mark here. You can do half block as well, but I'm just going to go ahead and do the full thing, right? So I'm marking 8 inches like so. Then I'll mark the midpoint of that 8, which is 4. On that midpoint I'm coming up by 3.5. You remember I said I wanted the curve to be 3.5, so I'll mark the 3.5 like so. I'll mark 3.5 all round, right? So I'm going to just connect these points like so. Then I'll make sure, I'll just go ahead and connect a straight line here. I'll square these lines out, right? So by the time I do that, from this line you can leave it like this, guys, if you want it to be square, but I don't want mine to be square. I want it to be sort of like a 4-cornered shape, right? That's what I want. So I'm going to mark 1 inch. I want mine to be sort of like curved on this side. So from here I'm going to mark 1 inch inwards, and from this point I'll mark 1 inch downwards as well, like so. Then I'll do the same thing on this side. You can just go ahead and draft half to spare you all of this work that I'm doing, right? But I mean, guys, I want you guys to get it. So if you're still watching, guys, and you're not yet subscribed, why not? This is the opportunity for you to subscribe. And if you've not liked my video till now, guys, I don't know what you're waiting for. Please support your friend and like this video. It will help me a lot, right? So I'll use my French curve to make this curve. So this will end up being the curved side of my shirt. Now you want this side to overlap, so you can go ahead and add maybe 1 inch on this side, 1 inch on this side for the overlap, right? So, or you can just end up doing it maybe 9 inches. Yeah, do instead of these 8 inches that I have here, you can do yours 9.5 or 10 inches so that it overlaps nicely. But 10 inches is usually much, so 9 inches will be fine, right? So I'm going to then, when you're done, you're going to add half of an inch sewing allowance all round this blog, right? So this is it about our sleeve. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my patterns out, then I'll show you what next to do. So guys, these are all our panels. We have the back, the front, the sleeve panel, and the curve on the sleeve, right? So for the sleeve, by the time we are sewing it, you can see this is the midpoint, which is supposed to be here, right? But that's not how it's going to work, because when we eventually want to sew, we are going to make a curve somewhere, plackets, a sleeve placket somewhere around here. Then we'll take in that dart that I said we are going to take in. So by the time we take in the dart, everything will come to normal, right? So this is it, guys. Guys, this is it about our shirt collar. If you enjoyed this tutorial, guys, do ensure to give me a thumbs up, share this video with your friends, guys, and subscribe. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram, James on Instagram. I sell really lovely African prints. I have a wide varieties of them that you can pick from, guys. So do ensure to go there to make all your purchases, right? I'm going to be dropping my Instagram link in the description box as well, and you can also follow me on Facebook at Somatize, right? So as we are going into this festive periods, guys, don't forget to remain somatized. See you in my next tutorial, which is going to be the collar tutorial and then the sewing tutorial of this video, guys. If I say I should do the collar also in this tutorial, it's going to be too long, so we are going to be carrying over the sewing to the next tutorial, guys. So don't forget to turn on post notifications so that by the time I upload that video, you'll be the first to be notified, guys. See you in my next tutorial. Bye.